Hello there, everybody, and today I am finally here to talk about Star Wars Tales of the Empire. So, I've been a little behind on my review for this, I've just been putting it off, and now I'm here to talk about it. So, I gotta say, I honestly don't think this is as good as Tales of the Jedi. Now, Tales of the Jedi I did like. The episodes of, like, Dooku, and then there's some episodes exploring Ahsoka. But in this is like sort of the slow, I guess, progress of the Rise of the Empire era. We get 3 episodes of Morgan Elsbeth, and we get 3 episodes about Barriss Offee finally. So let's discuss it. So the Path of Fear. This episode was interesting. We get like Morgan Elsbeth's perspective of what she was doing during when the Separatists invaded Dathomir, when Dooku sent Grievous to kill all the Night Sisters, and we actually do get Grievous, which is awesome. And he's wearing his cape, even though he didn't wear his cape in that episode. But it's a weird nitpick, but like, I think one of the Night Sisters tries to fight Grievous, but she ends up getting killed. There's a bunch of brutal scenes where Grievous just stabs the Night Sisters to death, and he's just laughing maniacally. And it takes a toll on Morgan Elsbeth. There's a lot of foreshadowing in these episodes, but later when Morgan Elsbeth escapes with the remaining Night Sisters, she hears like the voice of General Grievous. But later, with the remaining Night Sisters, we learn that there's a different group of Night Sisters that Morgan Elsbeth was with, and they have a sort of like different mystical powers, but they are ambushed by a group of Separatist droids, and these Night Sisters use their mystical powers to take them down. It isn't like the ones we see regularly in the Clone Wars. I don't know, I got a different vibe from that episode. So I think this episode shows how Morgan Elsbeth takes a turn and leading down to her dark path. So yeah, not too much to say about this episode. And some people thought like Grievous was clickbaited in this episode. Honestly, I think he was in it just the right time. Even though it was just one episode, it was still cool, and the visuals and the animation look so good. Like, I almost thought they were actually exploring the mountains. It almost looked live action. So this is how much the animation has improved. But the next episode is The Path of Anger. I've kind of already spoiled it, but like, this is where this episode's not really much going on. It just has Morgan Elsbeth pitch something for the Empire, where she's trying to pitch the TIE Defender project, but she all gets rejected. But it isn't until she meets Admiral Pellaeon, who has helped her like with her project go down, like. But that's where she gets into a fight with the bodyguard Rook. Last time we saw him, he was in the Star Wars Rebels series finale. We know his fate of that character, and he gets into a fight with Morgan Elsbeth. And it's a cool scene, I guess, but it kind of just ends with like Thrawn showing up, who's still not Grand Admiral yet, but he's still rising the ranks. And he's basically talking about how he wants to team up with her and stuff. And he says the iconic line he said in the Ahsoka show, "Long live the Empire," which was cool. So, not much story in this episode, so it was a fine episode. The next episode, where things get really intense, The Path of Hate. It's where a group of New Republic soldiers, years later, where Morgan Elsbeth has established her new base, which we saw in The Mandalorian Season 2, and we learn how the people there who were just these peaceful people until Morgan Elsbeth showed up, and the Republic soldiers try to tell her that, like, you must turn yourself in if you want to make things better for you, but she refuses, as she causes a big explosion of fire, and they lock the door, and the remaining troops get killed, and the one girl species, I forget what she's called, but she manages to narrowly escape, but she tries to contact, which I think it's Bo-Katan, but her comlink is destroyed, and Morgan Elsbeth has destroyed her comlink, and she says no one's coming for you. And the girl dies from her burning wounds, and all the New Republic soldiers are gone. And we also see this one dude I think we saw in The Mandalorian. I forget his name. I'm so sorry. But the episode ends with Morgan Elsbeth walking into the Grimsum fire of the forest planet. So I don't know when this part of this episode takes place. I'm gonna guess it takes place sometime in the New Republic era. So yeah, it's nice to see the New Republic era in the Clone Wars animation, since we never really got it, only in these live action shows, which was cool. But other than that, these Morgan Elsbeth episodes were kind of my least favorite of the Tales of the Empire. Like, they explain Morgan Elsbeth, but they just don't really go anywhere with these episodes. It's like they're just, I don't know, filling in the gaps. I know I've talked about filling in the gaps of Star Wars. It doesn't bother me too much, but like, it's just like, it feels like they set up Morgan Elsbeth's character, but they just don't really explore it that well. It's just kind of like, oh, here it is. But there were some really cool fight scenes in this episode. It was, yeah, the voice acting's good, but yeah, other than that, these were fine episodes. I probably give them all like, probably a 7 out of 10. But the next episode is the answer we've been finally waiting to see ever since the Clone Wars Season 5. So if you don't know, spoilers, I still haven't finished my Clone Wars reviews yet. But Barriss Offee turns out to be a perpetrator of the Jedi who betrayed the Jedi, bombed the temple, framed Ahsoka Tano, and now we find out what she's been up to since her arrest, since Anakin cleared Ahsoka's name. Turns out Barriss has been sentenced to prison, who has a life sentence, and she witnesses the Jedi Temple taken over by Anakin and the clone troopers. So yeah, nice ties to Revenge of the Sith, but she's interrupted by one of the Inquisitors. I think it's the fourth sister. We finally learn her name, which was cool, and she said she doesn't go by that name. I think her name's Lenny or something. Lenny. But it turns out they are recruiting Barriss to be part of the Inquisitor program. And that's where she meets the Grand Inquisitor, which is awesome. He's voiced by Jensen Ackles. I thought he was going to be voiced by Rupert Friend from the Obi-Wan show. But no, it's Jason Isaacs who has returned. But that doesn't show a lightsaber duel. It's instead the Inquisitor dodges Barriss's attacks, and she's using like this green lightsaber. But the Grand Inquisitor ends up beating her by telling her to use her anger and not fight like a Jedi, and she ends up using some of it. But that's where she meets these two brothers who are recruited also for the Inquisitor program, and the only way Barriss can escape is if she kills one of them. Well, one of them dies, and it's off screen, I'm pretty sure, but like the other one she has to fight, and they have like this shield on, and they end up you having to grab a red lightsaber. And I think what ends the fight is where Barriss snaps the dude's neck. It was pretty brutal, and he falls to his death as the beam was about to close in on them, and Barriss is recruited to be an Inquisitor. And we see a bunch of other cool cameos. We see the Inquisitor from Tales of the Jedi. We see Merrick, the fourth sister, and Barriss in her Inquisitor armor. So this confirms she's not the seventh sister. So yeah, and some people thought she was like similarities in like the species. I could see it, but like they're completely separate characters. We don't even know the seventh sister's name. But they are recruited in a barely built Fortress Inquisitors. It's the same one we saw in Fallen Order and like the Obi-Wan show, which is cool. But they are greeted by the arrival of Darth Vader. And yeah, we haven't really seen Darth Vader in the Clone Wars animation other than the Clone Wars series final. and now in this. And he doesn't have any lines, he's just breathing. But some people were disappointed that Vader wasn't really in it. It makes sense that because they're exploring Barriss. But that quick, cool cameo was awesome. I really do hope we see Vader in like the animations. I know some people just want to see Darth Vader, but like I don't know, it'd be cool to see more of Vader. But the next episode is Realization, where after the episode, Barriss puts on her helmet from earlier, and she says, "Long live the Empire." That was the last line in Devoted. But in Realization, she teams up with the Fourth Sister, who are sent on a mission after tracking down a Jedi. And it turns out the Jedi was in some village, and they are asking the people there where the Jedi is, but they refuse to give answers. And Barriss asks a little girl kindly where the Jedi is, and she gives in and tells her. But instead of peacefully walking away from it, the Fourth Sister pulls out her red lightsaber and starts slaughtering the people. So yeah, that's how dark this Inquisitor is. She didn't have a big role in the Obi-Wan show. She was kind of just there. But this shows how brutal the Inquisitors can be. And Barriss decides to follow her, and they start having some sort of debate about the whole mortals of the Jedi and stuff, about what peace and conquer is, and Barriss is feeling conflicted. But that's where it leads to a cool lightsaber duel between this Jedi and the Fourth Sister, and I think she gets knocked out. I don't think she gets cut down. It's up to interpretation. But Barriss betrays the Fourth Sister by using the Force and throwing her off the mountain. And Barriss has decided to abandon her life as an Inquisitor. But that's where it leads to the next episode, The Way Out, where it takes place a couple years after the last episode. We don't know exactly the establishment of the timeline, but it turns out what Barriss has been up to is she's on some sort of snow planet, and she's helping a family escape, who turns out one of them is a Force-sensitive child who is now getting tracked down by the Inquisitors. And they only got a few minutes to escape, and Barriss even gives a little insight about what she did, how she made a mistake, how she was led down a dark path. So Barriss has somehow been redeemed, and now she's like this sort of monk. Not really monk, she's just using her Force healing abilities, and that's what was more explored in like the EU, where Barriss was able to Force heal clones. But she decides to help this family escape in this cave, and the only way you could... What's interesting about this cave is, like, this cave that the family goes into, if you have a good heart, you can easily escape the temple. But if you have the darkness inside you, you can't. There's no way out. But that's where the Fourth Sister comes in, who has tracked Barriss. And she pulls out her red lightsaber, and they decide to have a fight. And the Fourth Sister almost takes a strike at Barriss, and she dodges it just like she did when she was fighting the Grand Inquisitor, and it leads to them into the cave, and she's trying to find her, and she's trying to convince the Fourth Sister to let go of her anger, because if she keeps on the anger, she'll never escape the temple. But that's where Barriss gets stabbed by this Fourth Sister, and she's now feeling terrible for what she's done. And she sort of has a redemption, the Fourth Sister, and she carries Barriss. And honestly, and some people are pissed off all because of this whole lightsaber stab thing. Honestly, this could be up for interpretation. Honestly, I see it as like Barriss getting Force healed off screen as Fourth Sister carries her, or something, or maybe she died. It's up for interpretation. The Wikipedia says she's still alive, but I don't know. So that's the Barriss episodes. I gotta be honest, I do like the ideas that they explore with like Barriss joining the Inquisitors, then she somehow gets this redemption, but I don't know, I'm not too convinced about it, because I felt like Barriss was always meant to be bad, since she literally betrayed the Jedi. And some people think she's out of character since she was different in the EU, but some people have issues of how she was portrayed in the Clone Wars and now in this. So it can leave people conflicted about how Barriss is in this. But to me, I think it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense for Barriss to redeem herself and become a different person. But I'd like to see a story where maybe her and Ahsoka worked things out. I don't know. And since it kind of implies that in this episode, but they don't really explore it. So, yeah, that's kind of what my main issue is with Tales of the Empire. I like the ideas they explore, but it's just not well executed. They had opportunities to explore the story more, but it kind of just leaves things open. And I kind of had to talk with my friend, Brent, Age of Grogu, subscribe to him, but we kind of discussed how, they have ideas, but they're just not really exploring it well. But yeah, I totally agree where he's coming from. But to me, I didn't hate Tales of the Empire at all. I just think it was kind of a little bit of a letdown. But I'd probably give it the overall show probably a low 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. But I don't know what's next for this Clone Wars animation and Star Wars, since the Clone Wars is over. Yeah, we had Tales of Jedi, Tales of the Empire. The Bad Batch is over, but I don't know what's next. We could be getting more Tales of series, maybe more Tales of the Jedi. I don't know. I'm really hoping the Clone Wars animation still goes on, because I love to see more stories. But even though this ain't my favorite of the Star Wars animations, it still looks good. But yeah, I don't think I got anything else to say. I might review The Acolyte soon. I've been putting it off, but I think I'll like to review it soon. But anyway, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.